Yo, this is Top Flight, and we are back on our Ren journey, starting with Vincent's Tales Sunflowers.
Yeah, this
Time
is
to
the.
get into it.
Been waiting to see this little series.
Let's see what he's talking about.
Tragic scenes last night in London. A 14-year-old girl was found dead from a fatal stab wound. Her attacker, a 14-year-old boy, is in critical condition after a violent altercation with a police officer. Over to reporters on the ground for more.
Oh, such a beautiful shame. The sunflowers wilt when the skies do not rain. It's a story I'm sure we all know. It's a moment of madness inside of the woes. We all fall down in London town. Shaky ground carries me. Whoa, rains down, blindingly loud. Never surrender. What a terrible scene. Here lie the corpses of corporate machines, planting seeds where the grass never grows. But the grass, it stays greener in places unknown as we all fall down in London town. Shaky ground carries me. Whoa, rains down, blindingly loud. Never surrender.
Oh, so that's like the introduction to it out the gate, and then hold
Did
on,
we go on the journey?
because that dude looks just like Vincent Van Gogh, the redhead dude.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't really.
Let me see.
How'd you catch that one? You just remember?
Because it kept saying Vincent, and I was like, the only Vincent I know other than my homie Vince Winston, you know, man, is Vincent Van Gogh. And I was kind of like, oh, hold on. He looks like Vincent Van Gogh, like just like Vincent Van Gogh. The like almost like the Groundhog's Day piece of doing is that Groundhog's Day when it just keeps rotating and happening again and again and again the exact
Same day
way.
over and over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not Groundhog. I think it's like. Well, there's that one movie where.
Yeah, I think it's called Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, yeah.
When
With
it just
Bill.
kept. Yeah.
What was that guy's name?
Is it Bill Murray?
Yeah, that's what I want to say. Bill Murray. You know what this whole thing I almost forgot completely about is at the beginning of the journey, Ren was going through he was kind of describing how he had some hallucinations and schizophrenia almost in a sense, or bipolar. Like he was dealing with some mental health stuff crazy, and then he talked about being sick later on, but then I kind of forgot about that piece, but this kind of brought that whole thing back, and I kind of want to go back and study some of the beginning pieces of our journey. Since now that we know everything, I think we need to go back.
Yeah, because now that we know more, you kind of can look at it in a different light. I respect the parts we did because we understood from what, it was just looking at the art pieces for what it was versus going okay, I kind of have a background with it, and now it'll seem like it might be, more entertaining because you'll understand more of it versus just looking at it to kind of trying to gauge lyricism or whatever like that. Because even with this piece, as I said, the monotony of life and trying to live, we talk about that of the difference between our life and then sometimes you see someone you went to school with and you're kind of they feel like they might look a little older than what you look, and you're almost you wonder if being an artist and being in that randomness actually kept your age lower because we didn't do any drugs or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's I wonder if that youthfulness of being excited to do stuff and having that dream keeps you alive versus when you don't have the dream and the hopelessness sets in and it's kind of almost the monotony of being day to day.
That Groundhog Day that's interesting. You pulled all that from. But it's true, because it's interesting, because they say stress is the worst thing for you, but we had stress.
We had stress, but I think the difference in switches and the dream being alive. I always said as long as you have a dream, you can live I feel you can live longer because you have a meaning to what you're doing. So it's almost
purpose,
you have this purpose. I think some people can get caught into the monotony of life, and if you allow it to take control, that actually becomes more stressful than the idea of when you have the randomness. Oddly, I think it does the opposite. You know what I'm saying? So I think it actually keeps you youthful because as a kid, you're kind of random. You do everything you think is fun and you kind of move how you move, which I kind of felt the rap game kind of did for us is it kept you in the fun of everything. You know what I'm saying? And then when you do something you don't love and you possibly can get caught in the monotony, I think that also can wear it at you. And I got that because when I kept seeing him do the monotonous things and he was sitting in the car the next day, sitting in the car, and he'd go to the same place, he'd buy the same thing, he'd do it. That's where I'm catching that from because I kept seeing that monotony piece, and that's all I got from that so far. But that's where I caught that, and I started going okay.
I was kind of driving back to when I was in high school. I used to watch a lot of movies, and there were some really trippy movies. I can't even remember Clockwork Orange type movies. I can't even remember the names of all the movies, but they had scenes like that. So it was driving me back to an old scenes of some movies I used to see, but I didn't know what it was or why it was nostalgia or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I actually wasn't paying attention to that piece, but now that you say that, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of pulling that from, but let's keep this going. Let's keep running through it. I'm going to see if I can figure out the rest of the order and we'll run through it.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Like, subscribe, comment.